For our project, we decided to study the relationship between income, or GDP per person, and fertility rate, or babies per woman. Looking at the whole world, we can already see a negative correlation between income and fertility rate. However, we will be focusing on the United States, the UK, China, India, and Mozambique. According to Gapminder, these two variables are negatively correlated with lower income individuals subject to higher numbers of babies born. We can clearly see a downward trend in the number of babies born as income increases. In the world today, the average fertility rate is just under 2.5 children per woman. Over the last 50 years, the global fertility rate has halved, and as societies modernize, the number of children per woman decreases dramatically. Historically, fertility rates of 4.5 to 7 children per woman were the norm. At that time, the high mortality rates kept population growth low. For the purpose of this discussion, we can assume industrialization roughly equates to higher GDP per person. According to Ori Katz's paper on industrialization, the United States underwent a rapid industrialization process during 1850 to 1900. During the Industrial Revolution, there were many changes in household dynamics. Men, for the most part, were out working in the city, and even some of the wives of these men were out looking for jobs. With the advent of new machinery, the need for a new wave of workers emerged, which were the operators, engineers, and mechanics who worked on the equipment. Furthermore, as the establishments became larger and began to serve more remote markets, managers and other white-collar jobs were increasingly needed. This, of course, increased GDP per person as time went on, but it also decreased the number of babies per woman, seeing as couples were increasingly busy with work. Katz also found there was a greater divergence between countries that were more industrialized in 1850 and countries that were less developed, according to a heterogeneity analysis. An example of this divergence can be seen in the Gapminder analysis with the country of Mozambique. This shows how lower income countries are not very affected by any of the topics we have discussed. A conclusion that could be drawn about this topic is the effects of welfare and responsibility with money in general. Welfare encourages population expansion of the poor and discourages population expansion in the middle and upper class because it discourages individuals from seeking employment, as welfare handouts are often more than what minimum wage pays. As the health of the population improved and the mortality rates decreased, we typically witnessed accelerated population growth.
We can see a dramatic drop in the number of children born in the United States, United Kingdom, Mozambique, India, and China in 1960 at all incomes. We believe this is due to the invention of contraceptives. In the 1960s, the birth control pill was a catalyst for the liberation of women from the fear of pregnancy. For the first time, women could enjoy sexual freedom without fear of being pregnant. More than 10 million women are estimated to use the pills today. After these best practice methods were adopted in high-income countries and irreversible sterilization was implemented, their distribution was subsidized for women in places such as Latin America and Africa after demands of birth control arose. However, birth control costs money. Although the trend continues downward for all countries being discussed, it is apparent that lower income countries such as Mozambique and India did not have such a dramatic drop as the higher income countries did. An interesting pattern can be seen in the 1980s in China after the Chinese government mandated the one-child policy, which also caused the trend to continue. We can see that countries with the highest income, as well as China, have the lowest birth rate even until today. The trend of higher developed countries we chose to study, including the United States, United Kingdom, can be clearly seen decreasing as income increases. In conclusion, it can be clearly shown through historical data that income is inversely proportional to fertility rates, mostly due to the advent of industrialization and birth control. Industrialization and urbanization caused a complete 180 in terms of income for families, which led to families decreasing their want or need for children. Birth control had the biggest impact in the 1960s and caused families to decrease the number of children they had due to income and easy access to the pill. According to the researchers, the global population will reach 9.7 billion by 2064 before falling to 8.8 billion by the end of the century.